How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees. If you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, if you enjoy the show, we're doing daily content covering all bases, and today we're talking Deivi Garcia, one of the Yankees' top pitching prospects, or at least he was a top pitching prospect, and then he kind of saw a significant drop-off in his efficiency and accuracy. His velocity was down. He did have a little bit of MLB experience a couple years ago, got a taste of the majors, and then kind of got shunned, and his stuff fell off a little bit, but he's starting to recovery. He's starting to showcase a little bit better velocity, a little bit better accuracy, and now Aaron Boone's kind of considering him a potential bullpen piece. So we're going to discuss his elevation, what he's done over the past couple weeks here, his performance in spring training, his start to the 2023 season, and maybe a role that he can play with a lot of injuries. If you guys don't know, Jonathan Loaisiga's on the 15-day IL. Tommy Kahnle was moved to this 60-day IL. Obviously, the Kahnle signing is really disappointing because he was our big bullpen free agent acquisition. Now he's probably lost for a couple months. And then, Lou Trevino still battling through that UCL sprain. So you have a couple of guys still fighting to get onto this team and contribute in any way. But Deivi Garcia is healthy. He's looking pretty good at the AAA level. So we'll see what happens. Maybe the Yankees need him if they need any bullpen support or whatever it might be. So, Ryan, before we dive into Deivi Garcia, what he can add to this team, how he's been performing lately, and maybe the recovery of his top prospect status. How you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great, and as you mentioned, I don't think it's too pessimistic to say the Yankees bullpen is kind of in shambles, right? As you mentioned, Jonathan Loaisiga, who last year, yes, you look at like an ERA of around 4, and you're like, oh, he wasn't that impressive last year. Well, everyone knows that he started off really slow, picked it up in the second half, and was just dominant in the postseason for this team. I'd say in the second half, if you look at the summer, he was their best reliever, and he was their most important reliever. And it sucks to lose him because he's someone that you can trust against lefties and righties. He's got explosive stuff, and we know that he's capable of being an elite reliever. So that's a huge blow, right? He's not going to be throwing for 2 weeks. It's thankfully, kind of like with all the elbow injuries we've gotten so far, we've avoided any structural damage. He'll be on a no-throw for up to 2 weeks. Typically, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to build up from that. Probably see him in about a month and a half, hopefully. But as you mentioned, Kahnle's down as well. Trevino's down as well. You're relying on a lot of guys like Cordero or Ian Hamilton or Albert Abreu who don't have a lot of major league experience, or B, don't have a great MLB track record. And I think I can speak for both of us in the sense that Ian Hamilton has definitely been impressive. You don't want to start making conclusions in under 5 innings of sample size in a season, right? You don't want to start throwing guys out there in the 9th inning to close games, based on just the month of April. But Aaron Boone's probably going to have to do that at some point, right? I do not envy his position right now. That man has a lot of bullpen decisions that I would not want to be making right now. But Deivi Garcia can certainly play a role here. And, kind of over the last couple of years, it's felt like Deivi's kind of been phased out because he was a starting pitcher, and the Yankees have gotten really good at getting a lot of production from their starters, right? They were able to trade a guy like Jordan Montgomery and not really feel it, right? Domingo Germán is someone that I'm not particularly high on, but I mean, he's a capable starting pitcher. We know he's a pretty solid starter. Johnny Brito's just kind of shown up out of nowhere and just been excellent for the New York Yankees, right? You lose Severino, you lose Rodon. You expect that type of run prevention from those guys, not from Johnny Brito. But he's definitely stepped up and taken a huge leap. But now there's a bullpen opening, and Deivi Garcia's added some velocity. He's sitting at around 95 miles an hour. He's got a nasty sweeper. He's got a cutter. He still has the change up, but it's a new type of Deivi Garcia. This isn't the same Deivi with the big curveball, low 90s fastball. He's got some serious zip on the pitch. He releases it from a low slot, so that helps him add vertical deception. He gets a good amount of ride on it, so it's going to work up in the strike zone. The big thing with Deivi Garcia is command, right? This year, even in AAA, he's got a little bit of a walk issue. He's always had a walk issue, right? Kind of weirdly enough, when he was with the Yankees at the major league level, he was pounding the strike zone, and he's kind of moved away from that, right? Now, whether that's a feel thing, whether he's just getting accustomed to this new pitch mix is one thing, but, we know that the stuff is there. I think it's apparent that velocity, movement, all those things are not an issue for Deivi Garcia. He can even get strikeouts. The issue is just command, not giving up the long ball, right? But maybe in this reliever role, and the way Aaron Boone talked about it, which I know we'll get into, it's definitely enticing. It's just a matter of if he can find the strike zone and locate his pitches, decently, not even at a high clip, but just decently enough to get by.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you look at what he did in the past, and at 23 years old, it's really important to note that Garcia is still very young. I mean, he had MLB experience 2020 and 21, didn't pitch in 2022 for the team, but it's kind of impressive to see that he is so young that they have plenty of time to continue developing him, and it seems like they're keen on doing that. His last MLB appearance came back in 2021. He pitched 8.1 innings, hosted a 6.48 ERA, and then he pitched 34.1 innings in the MLB back in 2020 with basically a 5 ERA, which kind of indicated he needed a little bit more development. Last year, he pitched 37.1 innings, had a couple of injury issues, had an 8 ERA, kind of took a step in the wrong direction. But as you said, the stuff is there. Like, Garcia objectively has the stuff, but he kind of gives me Clark Schmidt vibes in the sense that he starts okay. Like, he starts strong, 1-2 innings, third, fourth inning rolls around, and then he falls apart. You know what I mean? Whether it's the second time through the lineup and opposing batters just starting to see what he's throwing, or maybe he gets fatigued. There's so many different variables that impact a pitcher, but it seems like the more he pitches, the less efficient he gets. So that's kind of where Boone is going with this, in the sense that he wants him to be like a Michael King type of role, relief pitcher from a starter, so he can kind of take on an inning or two, gets you into like the later relief situations where you have guys like Ron Marinaccio, you have guys like Clay Holmes, Wandy Peralta, all these really talented arms that can really help you close out these games, 8th, 9th inning arms. So if you have a guy that can take you 5-6 innings, a guy like Deivi Garcia can help you take you to the 7th, 8th inning, and give you a little bit of leverage there and help keep everybody else a little bit more, I guess, healthy. You know what I mean? Because you don't want these bullpen arms to be pitching every single day. You need those middle inning relief guys that can take you 1, 2, 3 innings sometimes. Brito would have been a phenomenal option for that if the Yankees had a healthy rotation. I mean, we love him in the starting role. 10 innings pitched and only 1 earned run allowed. Wasn't really his fault anyway. So you kind of look at Brito has taken on a starting job. Clark Schmidt now profiles as a really good bullpen piece because you have him as this 1-2 inning guy who is really good for 2 innings, but then he falls apart once he gets over 50, 60 pitches. I don't know if it's fatigue, he loses his command, batters are starting to see what his pitches look like. There's a lot of different things that happen with Clark Schmidt that really just hurt his overall efficiency. The stuff is there, but he just doesn't do it over a longer sample size on a game-by-game basis. He needs to be kind of given that 1-2 inning leash, and then that's it. Then he's done because he just falls apart after that. He wants to be a starting pitcher, but ultimately I don't think he's going to be that unless there's injuries and he just gets the opportunities consistently. When Luis Severino and Carlos Rodon come back, those opportunities dry up really fast. And you're looking at guys like Johnny Brito and Domingo Germán to take on those starting reps. And then Clark Schmidt probably gets pushed back into the bullpen. And depending on Lou Trevino's injury, depending on when he comes back, Tommy Kahnle, Jonathan Loáisiga, I would not be surprised if we saw some movement there. Greg Weisert's another guy that could get called up. But I'll tell you about Garcia. I don't think he gets called up anytime soon. I think that if another injury happens, then you're looking at that. You still have Colton Brewer on the roster. You still have Ian Hamilton. Like I said, you got Weissert on the back end there. You have Clark Schmidt, who they may push into the bullpen. What do you think it would take for the Yankees to say, okay, you know what? We're ready to bring up Garcia. Probably needs a little bit more sample size at the AAA level. You're probably seeing he needs at least a 20-inning sample size to really justify the promotion and to see if he can really, stand up over a bigger, just period of time and show that efficiency, right?
Yeah, the big thing for me here is that, as you mentioned, he's not necessarily the first guy up. Greg Weissert, as you mentioned, has MLB experience. Matt Crook doesn't have MLB experience, but the Yankees are high on him, and I personally think he's done more and he's proven more to be major league ready. He's also shifted into a bullpen role this year. He was a starter in 2022 and he's pitched a lot better than Deivi Garcia has, at least in my mind. More ground balls, better strikeout rate, better strikeout to walk numbers, even though he still is pretty wild and he gives up a lot of walks. But the thing is here, as you mentioned, it's hard to really create opportunities on a championship team, right? I'm going to say issue, and I want to clarify for the next couple of minutes. When I use the word issue, I don't mean it as in it's a problem that the Yankees have in the sense of Brian Cashman has constructed a roster poorly or anything like that. Issue in the sense of from the perspective of a Deivi Garcia or a Clark Schmidt or any of these guys, right? As you mentioned with Clark Schmidt, there's not a lot of opportunities for him to start, right? And that's because this is a championship team, right? You're not going to try to develop Clark Schmidt as a starter if there are better options ahead of him, right? He can help you in the bullpen. The Yankees need bullpen help. That's where they're going to use him, right? That's just, it is what it is, right? The Yankees have to do what's best for their team. They can't just make decisions that are best for player development all the time, especially at the major league level, and especially when it comes to the fact that, they need relievers, and they have, as you mentioned, Luis Severino and Carlos Rodon are no slouches. It's not like, we're calling back, a 30-year-old who has a career 4 ERA. We're calling back Carlos Rodon, who over the last 2 years has been a top 5 starter, and a Luis Severino who last year was excellent when he pitched, right? Like, these aren't scrubs, right? Let's be real here. These are one healthy elite level starting pitchers. The issue with Deivi is, just trying to leapfrog guys ahead of him. Why would I call him up over Greg Weissert? Greg Weissert's been more impressive at the AAA level, and you know what? He struggled last year, but I feel like the stuff is clearly there, right? He's a little bit older than Deivi as well, so you feel a little more inclined to kind of figure out what you have with him. Matt Crook, the same thing. More success at AAA, a little more consistency, a little older. You want to figure out what you have in him. Deivi's 23 years old. If he doesn't figure it out until he's 25, that's still younger than whatever Greg Weissert is right now, or that's 3 years younger than what Matt Crook is right now, right? By the time Deivi Garcia is 25, Clark Schmidt, I think, is going to be 29. Matt Crook's going to be 30. Like, he's still pretty young. This is not an old pitcher, right? So Deivi Garcia can still kind of wait things out a little bit. And it's unfortunate that, he's not really getting a major league shot because of the fact that there's so much depth ahead of him, but that's unfortunate for him, not necessarily unfortunate for the team. If Deivi Garcia was this team's 8th best reliever, fully healthy, you feel pretty bad about this bullpen, right? The Yankees have had a myriad of injuries. The Yankees have brought in, guys who, I'm not going to call them randoms because I think that's disrespectful. These are major league pitchers, but guys who don't have a consistent track record or are journeyman relievers. And those guys have jumped him in the depth chart. So, Deivi has a lot to prove, as you mentioned, at AAA. And I hope he proves it because I think, as you mentioned, the stuff is really good. I think there is a world where Deivi Garcia is a good reliever on the New York Yankees, but he's got to figure it out. And he's got to pitch a lot better because it can't just be, good ERA, bad walk rates, low strikeout rate. That's not going to cut it. The Yankees can find that somewhere else, right? They've got plenty of guys with high level stuff who have command issues. It's about time for Deivi Garcia to just blend into that bullpen role. It's fine if it takes time, even if it takes a whole year, right? If he pitches well enough, the Yankees are going to keep him on the 40-man roster. If he pitches well enough, Wandy Peralta's a free agent at the end of the year. Loaiziga, Canley, Holmes, all free agents after the 2024 season. Trevino as well. There's going to be opportunities for Deivi Garcia to pitch down the road. He's just got to worry about pitching well at the AAA level right now, sharpening his stuff, figuring out his command, and if it means that, if it means that other guys are going to be ahead of him in the depth chart for now, fine. But injuries are always going to happen. There's going to be an opportunity for him down the road at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, he's 23 years old, as I said before. So you have to understand that, there is a lot of development left to be had. And as you said, he's kind of changing his pitch repertoire. So he needs to adjust. So we'll give him a nice little leash here. We'll see what he can do. If he ends up doing really well and the Yankees have some injuries, who's to say he doesn't get elevated at some point to help this team? But we'll obviously keep close eye on him. There's a couple other really great prospects. Spencer Jones is having a ridiculous start to the 2023 season. Maybe we'll talk about him tomorrow and just give you guys some highlights and whatnot of what he's accomplished so far, and the fact that he could make a push for the Major League roster within the next 2 years, and the fact that he was just drafted last year is pretty insane. He is absolutely cranking. They called him the lefty Aaron Judge, but he wants to be himself. He wants to be unique, and we respect that. We interviewed him a couple weeks ago. And he's a really great dude with a really great work ethic, so we're excited to continue to see his success and progress unfold here before us in the minor league system. But guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, you got you guys covered on the pregame and postgame later on today against the Cleveland Guardians, against Shane Bieber. Going to be a tough one, but we'll break down the pregame analysis and the lineup that the Yankees do end up dropping. Franchy Cordero hopefully will be in the lineup because I know Bieber's a righty and Cordero has been absolutely on fire lately. So we got you guys covered on that end. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.